Bank staff kick out Barron Trump, but instantly regret it when Melania Trump arrives. It's a typical Tuesday afternoon, quiet and routine, until an unexpected scene unfolds at a high-end New York bank, setting the stage for a drama that no one saw coming. Picture this: Barron Trump, the youngest son of former President Donald Trump, walks into a prestigious financial institution. He's no stranger to the public eye, but this time, it's not his father's legacy or his famous name that's about to make waves. It's an entirely different kind of presence. The staff at the bank, already dealing with a busy day, didn't expect that Barron's visit would stir the kind of tension that would soon ripple through their world. It all starts innocently enough, with Barron walking in, casually dressed, as though blending into the world of finance and business wasn't the least bit unusual for him. But within moments, things begin to feel off. The employees, who are no strangers to high-profile individuals walking through their doors, seem to hesitate. Some glance at each other, exchanging unsure looks. The familiarity with Barron's face doesn't seem to be enough to avoid the building sense of confusion. A new, more stern approach takes hold. Perhaps it's the sudden rush of tension or the weight of their day's demands. But before long, the unthinkable happens. Barron Trump is asked to leave. No explanation, no courtesy extended, just a firm and surprising request for him to step out of the bank. The staff, who normally pride themselves on being accommodating, seem to have overstepped. But there's a deeper layer of confusion in the air. What could have possibly caused them to react like this? As Barron walks out, a sense of unease spreads across the bank. Staff members glance at each other, second-guessing their decision. What just happened? Was it a mistake? Was it a misunderstanding? No one knows for sure, but there's a growing realization that they might have made a huge error. Little do they know, their mistake is about to be exposed, and in a way they never expected. Then, just as the tension reaches its peak, the doors to the bank swing open again. This time, it's not Barron stepping back in, but Melania Trump. The room falls silent. The air grows heavier. Melania Trump, known for her poise, grace, and undeniable presence, steps into the room with the kind of confidence only a few can match. Her every step seems calculated, deliberate. And with her entrance, the mood in the bank shifts dramatically. The staff members, still trying to process the events of the past few minutes, immediately realize that they've made a grave mistake. The anxiety in their faces is visible. How could they have let something like this happen? What now? And as Melania walks up to the counter, it's clear that the atmosphere in the bank will never be the same again. Stay tuned, because in the next part of this story, we'll dive into the dramatic aftermath of Barron's sudden eviction and Melania's powerful arrival. How will the staff handle the fallout? What consequences will they face? And just how much does Melania know about what transpired? Keep watching to find out what happens next. The atmosphere in the bank grows tense, the air thick with uncertainty. The staff, still reeling from their decision to ask Barron Trump to leave, watches Melania's every move. Her arrival seems to hold an almost magnetic pull. Everyone in the room is aware that this isn't just any ordinary moment. This is the moment that could make or break everything. Melania, with her poised demeanor and calm expression, steps up to the counter where the manager, Lisa, stands frozen. Lisa's face is pale, her hands slightly trembling as she attempts to keep her professional composure. It's obvious she didn't expect this confrontation. She never imagined things would escalate like this. There's no turning back now. "Miss Trump," Lisa stammers, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't realize it was him. We didn't mean for things to go this way." Melania's eyes narrow just slightly. She doesn't speak immediately. Instead, she takes in the room, scanning the faces of the employees around her. The room seems smaller now, the walls inching closer as the weight of the moment presses down on everyone. She knows exactly what's happening. She's been through this kind of situation before. The staff's mistake is glaring, and she isn't about to let it slide. But she's also calculating, taking in the dynamics of the situation with a precision that few can match. "Do you know who my son is?" Melania asks, her voice calm but carrying an undeniable authority. Lisa's lips part, struggling to find the right words. The mistake was made, But now the question hangs in the air, unanswered. The staff feels it, the sharp sting of regret. They had misjudged Barron, assuming he was just another young person trying to blend in, unaware of his connections. But they hadn't expected his mother, a former First Lady, to be standing before them, poised to confront them about their blunder. As Melania stands there, she surveys the scene, her mind whirring. She knows how quickly the tide can turn in these situations. One wrong move, and she could easily add fuel to the fire. But she also knows the power of silence, the way it forces others to confront their own mistakes. The manager, still uncertain of how to proceed, tries to maintain eye contact with Melania, but the pressure of the moment is overwhelming. Her thoughts race. What did they do wrong? Why did they assume that Barron wouldn't be treated with respect, just because he was quietly walking into a bank on an ordinary day? The mistake was blatant. There was no denying it, but how would Melania react? Meanwhile, another staff member, Steve, watches the scene unfold from a distance. He had been the one to ask Barron to leave. It was his decision, and now the weight of that decision feels heavier than he ever imagined. He recalls Barron's face as he was asked to step out, hurt, confused, but mostly surprised. Steve couldn't help but feel a pang of guilt. He wasn't even sure why he had reacted that way. Maybe it was the stress of the day. Maybe it was the pressure of dealing with high-profile clients. Whatever the reason, he had made the call, and now, it seemed, he was about to face the consequences. Back at the counter, Melania is still silent, her eyes fixed on Lisa, who is visibly flustered. Lisa opens her mouth to speak but falters. She knows she's walking a fine line, and every word she says could make everything worse. The other employees are watching, waiting for someone to take charge, to resolve the situation before it escalates further. Melania finally speaks again, her tone soft but with an edge of warning. Mistakes happen, I understand that, but actions have consequences. This is not the way things should have been handled. Not for my son, not for anyone. Her gaze flicks toward the rest of the staff. They shift uncomfortably under her scrutiny. I believe in accountability, but I also believe in fairness. What happens now will reflect not just on you, but on your establishment. Lisa's face flushes, and the room falls even quieter. The tension is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Every second seems to stretch longer than it should. And yet, even in this uncomfortable silence, a feeling of dread hangs over the room. This isn't just about a mistake. This is about something bigger, a moment that will have lasting consequences, not just for Barron, but for everyone involved. Then, just as Melania seems poised to say more, another voice cuts through the tension. It's Steve, the staff member who had been involved in the initial incident. He steps forward cautiously, his hands visibly shaking. His voice is small but earnest as he says, I never meant to offend anyone. I didn't know who he was. I thought he was just another client. But I see now how wrong that was. The words, simple as they are, seem to hang in the air. For a brief moment, everything stops. It's clear Steve is remorseful, but does it matter now? The damage has already been done. There's no going back. Melania looks at him, her expression unreadable. She pauses for a moment before speaking again, her voice low but firm. Apologies are only meaningful when backed by understanding. You can apologize, but what will you do to fix this? Steve's eyes widen. He didn't expect that kind of response. He thought maybe, just maybe, she would accept his apology and leave it at that. But Melania isn't here for empty gestures. She's here to hold them accountable and to make sure they understand the full extent of their mistake. The room grows colder, more uncomfortable. The clock on the wall ticks louder with every passing second. But before anyone can respond, Melania turns on her heel and heads toward the door. Think carefully, she says, her voice carrying just enough weight to leave everyone in that room questioning their next move. And then, just as suddenly as she arrived, she's gone, leaving behind nothing but tension, confusion, and the undeniable sense that the consequences of today's actions will be felt for a long time. Stay tuned to see how the staff deals with the fallout of this shocking moment, and whether they can ever undo the damage that has been done. How will Barron and Melania move forward after such an unexpected turn of events? The answers lie in the aftermath, and it's sure to be anything but ordinary. The tension in the bank lingers long after Melania's departure. It's as if the air is thick with anticipation, the kind of quiet that precedes something big. The staff stands frozen, unsure of what to do next. No one dares to speak. Steve, still shaken, looks to Lisa for guidance, but she's at a loss. It's as if the very foundation of their professionalism has been shaken, and the reality of the mistake they made is sinking in harder than ever. Minutes pass, maybe even hours, but it feels like time has stopped altogether. The moment that Barron Trump was asked to leave, dismissed without a second thought, is something they'll never forget. And now, with Melania's chilling words hanging in the air, the question remains: what comes next? The door swings open again, and the entire room tenses in unison. This time, it's Barron who walks back in. His demeanor has changed since his brief, but hurtful, eviction. He stands tall, his gaze steady as he makes his way through the room. There's a quiet confidence about him, one that tells everyone around him that he's no longer the boy who was thrown out in confusion and haste. He's become something else, a force to be reckoned with, and as he steps forward, it's clear that he's not here for apologies. He's here to claim his place, to make sure that the mistake doesn't go unaddressed. Without saying a word, Barron walks directly to the counter. His presence commands attention, and the staff can't help but feel a mix of guilt and awe. They know what they did, and now they're faced with the consequences. Barron doesn't speak at first, but the silence is deafening. The tension is palpable. And then, he finally addresses the staff, his voice calm, but with an edge that catches everyone off guard. "I don't need your apology," Barron says, his words measured and deliberate. "I need you to understand that this isn't about me. It's about how you treat people, anyone. My family may be in the public eye, but we are no different from anyone else who walks through these doors. The next time you decide to judge someone, make sure you know who they are and what they stand for." The weight of his words hangs in the room. It's not anger that he speaks with, but a quiet resolve, one that reflects a maturity beyond his years. The staff, particularly Steve, finds it hard to meet his gaze. They now see Barron for who he truly is, not just the son of a former president, but a young man with integrity and strength, standing firm in the face of a mistake that should never have happened. Just as Barron turns to leave, there's a final, unexpected moment. Melania reappears, walking back into the room with the same commanding presence she carried before. She stands beside her son, her gaze sweeping over the room once again. This time, though, there's no anger in her eyes, only a sense of resolution. She looks at the staff and nods, acknowledging that the moment has passed, but not forgotten. "You've learned a valuable lesson today," Melania says softly, her voice carrying an air of finality. "We all make mistakes, but the real measure of a person is how they make things right. I trust you'll remember that." And with that, mother and son turn and walk out of the bank, leaving the staff to reflect on the powerful impact of the events that just unfolded. There's no more tension, no more uncertainty, only quiet reflection. As the door closes behind them, the weight of the lesson lingers in the air. The staff at the bank, once so sure of themselves, now realize that their assumptions and their hasty decisions had consequences far beyond what they ever expected. It's a lesson in respect, in humility, and in understanding. And while the story may be over, the reflection it leaves behind will carry forward. For Barron and Melania, the moment was more than just an encounter at a bank. It was a reminder that every action, no matter how small, has the potential to impact someone's life. And for the bank staff, it was a reminder that every person, regardless of their name or title, deserves the same respect and understanding. As the final moments of the story settle in, it's clear that the true power of the situation wasn't in the conflict itself, but in the resolution. The mistakes were acknowledged, the tension dissipated, and in the end, everyone walked away with something more valuable than just an apology. The reminder that respect and understanding should never be taken for granted. And as the story ends, one thing remains clear. In a world where the unexpected can happen at any moment, the only thing that truly matters is how we choose to handle it.